I recently have been watching some of the Louis Theroux Weird Weekends
Okay.
on Netflix because they're good and I quite like Louis Theroux. And he does a one of his documentaries. There's a series; they're all on Netflix, and he goes to various places and stuff. And I watched a couple, but he did one on big cat owners in America. And lo and behold, before my eyes appears Joe Exotic.
Wow.
A good, I want to say 8 years, maybe even longer, before Tiger King came out.
Right.
And it is really interesting seeing two different documentary makers take on the same person.
Okay. So what differences were there between those two takes then?
So, well, obviously, Tiger King makes it manipulate you very well. And I want to say something else about it quickly.
Yeah.
I found out recently that apparently they cut out a lot of Joe Exotic was actually spouting a lot of racism and was said a load of racist remarks, and they cut out almost all of it, or probably all of it. I didn't remember him being racist.
Not explicitly, no.
No, and they cut out all of his racism specifically to make you feel more empathy with him.
Yeah.
It's like that is very, very manipulative
That is prime documentary manipulation,
because that's not the truth at all. Then is it? Because if you're showing us a version of him that's been censored and cleaned specifically so that we like him more.
Yeah. And considering that, the documentary, he is in jail and but
Yeah.
the whole point is he was in jail, but look how much of a nice man he was. So it's very
Yeah.
much fitting an agenda there, rather than trying to give an accurate expose or something.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So they cut out a lot of that. They want you to make him think that he's fucking crazy. So yeah, they achieve that. Like you do think he's crazy, but they very much I don't know, make him lovable, don't they?
Yeah, they make him out to be almost misunderstood, kind of
Yeah.
good at heart.
Yeah, definitely. Whereas in Louis Theroux, it's a lot more subtle. Firstly, and this is definitely before Joe Exotic snapped with all the Carol Baskin stuff.
Right.
So it's a lot more subtle, and he's just sort of talking to Joe, and they're playing with Joe's playing with a bear cub and a tiger cub or something. And it's really interesting. So the whole thing's there's going to be a tornado, so we have to go and save all these big cats. And then Louis follows him around and talks to him about all these things. And then they go into this cage and have this interview. And it's a lot more there's a lot more to do with the morals. Do you know what I mean? Tiger King isn't necessarily, it's oh, he's crazy. But with Louis Theroux, he's just do you not think this is wrong?
So he asked the proper question, whilst Tiger King sort of skirts around them.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas Louis directly asks him don't you think they should be wild? Don't you think why are you doing this? Do you not think you're doing this wrong? Do you not think it would be better if there would be no tigers in captivity? And obviously Joe gives his fucking bullshit answers. The one bit that stood out to me was he had a question. So Louis was like, oh, so what would happen if the tiger got me? If I went into the cage and the tiger got me? And Joe was just like, oh, I'd shoot you in the head.
Oh, wow. Not the tiger.
And Louis was like, what? You'd shoot me in the head? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. I'd put you out of your misery straight away. And Louis was like, okay, well, why wouldn't you shoot the tiger?
Yeah.
And Joe was like, oh, I think it would be better to shoot you because you might not survive your injuries or something. And it was like, what?
Jesus.
It's like, you're fucking mental. So it was it was really interesting to see the difference in how two people handle the same guy.
And so how's that impacted your opinion of Tiger King as a documentary?
Well, so Tiger King, it just skirts, being a documentary, I think, because of how heavily manipulated it is. And I think, not the Louis Theroux, obviously Louis Theroux only was with him for, a day or, a couple of days just to interview him and then leave and go and talk to someone else. So obviously it's a very different, because he's got like this tiny snapshot into Joe's mind, whereas Tiger King is a full blown, what, 6 years was it, or 4 years
Something
or
like that.
something?
Certainly at least 5 they were there.
Yeah, doing this expose on this guy. But then, you are being manipulated, intensely manipulated the entire time. And for something that's about Joe Exotic, there's several episodes about other people where Joe's barely featured,
Yeah, that's true.
It is interesting. I'm not saying it's undeniably a brilliant documentary because of, it's very, very entertaining. And like we were talking earlier, like when was the last time a documentary got this much
Well, yeah,
buzz?
that's what I was going to ask. Like, why do you think Tiger King was as successful as it was? Because for the one thing, there's like, obviously it came out at such a good time when we were just going into lockdown.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like that can't be all of it. There's got to be some element of it.
Well, I think because he's obviously a brilliant documentary maker. I think it is right time, right place. And on top of that, it is a very, very, very interesting subject
Yeah.
with so many twists and turns that it is murder, mayhem, and madness, isn't it? But for a lot of people who are like, I don't know about you, and maybe I don't know what it's like in America, but I had no idea anything like that was going on.
No, I knew certainly in like Las Vegas, there's a lot of like people owning tigers and using them and stuff, but I didn't know anything about what's in Tiger King.
But my only exposure to that is like, I knew. Is it Mike Tyson owns a tiger? And it's like,
Oh yeah,
I thought that was just a rarity because he's an eccentric millionaire boxer who just wants a cool animal.
yeah.
I thought that was a rarity. I didn't realize how fucking insane it was. I didn't realize how big this whole operation was.
But yeah, because it's interesting considering, documentaries aren't massively like in the public spotlight. There is now like a subculture of documentary fans from Netflix.
Yeah.
In terms of like Tiger King was really quite a spectacle.
So I think the last one that was as big as the Tiger King was what, like Making a Murderer?
Yeah, maybe. Must have been. That was 2015, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because that was like Tiger King was, if you hadn't, everyone had seen it, and if you hadn't, you were out of a loop. And yeah, Making Murder is probably the only other thing I can think of that's like that. But it was such a phenomenon.
And I think it's something to do with like how, because if you think about other documentaries, like normal documentaries of films, right?
Yeah,
That are 2 hours of this, like, oh, here you go, like, look at Senna, that's his entire life squeezed into 2 hours.
right.
Whereas Tiger King is like, well, we'll have a series so we can have as long as we want to get into every single nook and cranny of this story.
Which ironically then doesn't actually do.
Well, yeah. But I think must be part of it, is they've got the length of time to explore everything they want.
Yeah.
But they've also got a lot more time to get across their narrative. Because another brilliant documentary series that Netflix has done is the Ted Bundy tapes.
Yeah.
Because I think that's 4 or 5 episodes.
I think, yeah, it's only about 4 hours long in total, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's really, really good. And every episode is something new that fitting it into a 2-hour film would be harder to do. But they've got double the runtime, so it works. And I think having it in the bite-sized piece, not that an hour episode is bite-sized, but it's certainly, if you want to break it up, you can.
Yeah, because it's interesting though, because so I saw an advert for McMillions, which is this new Sky documentary series about the McDonald's monopoly, and like the big tagline behind the advert was like, "It's the new Tiger King." Like Tiger King's now become synonymous as like popular documentary.
Yeah.
Which is I don't know, I find something really strange about that.
Yeah.
Like, not that Tiger King's bad, but like it almost seems like anomalous how big of an impact it had.
Yeah. I think it is, isn't it? Like, it's strange that it's had such a big impact.
I think you're right. I think it's a combination of like, it came out at like just a perfect time. Like, it really couldn't have been the best time to come out. And also the content of it is so sort of strange and sort of like, you've got to see it to believe it.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, I think.
Also, I think like, because also, especially as it's like quite open-ended in terms of like, it's its portrayal and what it's trying to say and like whose side it's on. I think there's
Yeah.
a real water cooler quality to it as well.
Yeah, I definitely think so.
That probably helps.